Okay, welcome back to Gary's Economics for the last video in this season of the channel. I'm going to take a break. I'm going away for a couple of months. So I wanted to make a video looking back over what has unambiguously been the most mental season of Gary's Economics so far. Okay, so what have we done this season on Gary's Economics? We've only been back about 4 months. In that time, I think we have been one of the fastest, if not the fastest, growing YouTube channels in the entire country. We've successfully pissed off a big chunk of the most annoying people and newspapers in the entire country. We have effectively driven wealth taxes and the idea that we need to tax wealth, not work, really aggressively into the public conversation. We're starting to achieve the things which I've wanted to achieve for a long time. And that's basically thanks to you guys. Last time I put the channel on pause was last year. We shot, I think, at the beginning of July or the end of June. And it was just after the general election had been called. And I was quite knackered then, probably not as knackered as I am now. But I got quite emotional in that video. I watched it back. And the reason I got emotional was because I said in that video, I worked really hard last year. We had the channel running for most of the first, like 2/3 of the year. And then when the election got called, the channel grew massively. But when the election got called a little bit earlier than I was expecting, it was just really clear to me that we weren't going to be able, I wasn't going to be able to influence the election. It was really clear that Labour were going to win, but it was really clear we weren't going to be able to influence their pitches, their policies. And I think I said at the time of the video, it's difficult when you've worked so hard to look at how much work you've done and how far you've come, and then to look up and realize how much further you have to go before you can have any power, before you can have any impact. And I was a little bit depressed, to be honest, at the making of that video. But now, filming this 17th of April, this time we're putting the channel on pause. It looks realistically, and I'm not just saying this, it looks like something that eventually we could maybe win. The speed of the growth of this channel and this message in this last season, the last 4 months, has been just unbelievably big. It was for periods the fastest growing YouTube channel in the country, which is insane for a channel which is essentially talking about redistributive politics and economics. Every newspaper in the country has been speaking about it. During this season, we had the spring statement, which is kind of like a mini budget here in the UK, for those who don't know. And during the coverage of that budget, I think the single most prominent criticism of the government's economic policies during that period was, why are you not taxing the rich more? That's not just us, and that's not just this channel that's pushed that message. But I think a big part of it has been us. And I have said before on this channel, and I've thought for a while, I've been very confident for a long time that the economy would get worse because of this worsening wealth inequality. And that would move the economic and political conversation into a space where people demanded something new. And I was of the opinion for a long time, and I still probably am, that this new right, this alt-right, the far right, whatever you want to call them, the anti-immigrant right, would eventually win power in a number of countries, really quite simply because they were the only political solution on the table that felt like something new on the economy. And I believed for a long time that if we can get this idea on the table, that there is an alternative, which is taxing the rich more, taxing workers less, taxing wealth, not work, that we could have a really good chance of winning policy change in the long run. And for a long time, it felt kind of unbelievable, kind of unachievable, because it just didn't seem like there was any demand in the kind of halls of power. It didn't seem like anybody was talking about it. It didn't seem like we could get it into the Overton window, to use a term I introduced a couple of videos, to get it onto the table, basically. And it is just the first step, and to some degree it is only in this country. But we've got it onto the table. In the last 4 months, we have got that onto the table. And this is now something that politicians have to talk about. It's something that politicians get asked all the time. It's something they have to have an idea about. We've obviously not won the Labour Party over yet, which are the party in government. We've not won the government over yet. But I never expected to win them. Now, I think I've said very clearly on the channel, my plan was to make this something that we can hopefully force Labour to do coming to the next election. And the unbelievable growth in this channel, the unbelievable growth in this message in the last 4 months makes me, really for the first time in the history of doing this channel, makes me feel this is genuinely something that we can achieve, genuinely something that we can win. And that is something that I'm very proud of. And it's something you can be very proud of, because ultimately this is a YouTube channel. It is increasingly a political movement which bases entirely its power on its popularity with the public, its popularity with you. Its growth comes from people like you telling your friends, telling your families, telling your mum, like I always say. It's working, you know. The reason that think tanks lobby the politicians instead of speaking to the public is because they don't think it works. They don't think you guys are powerful. They don't think you guys have power. They don't think there's any point talking to you. They don't think there's any point basing movement on you and educating you, and we are proving them wrong. And that's something we should all be very proud of. But basically, I'm totally knackered. We used to shoot every 3 weeks, and we would try to shoot 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 videos on a shoot day. And that was how we did it. But I've been so tired the last few weeks that I have been unable to shoot more than 1 video a shoot day, which has meant that I have to shoot every week, which means in the end, I probably am ending up doing more work because I'm shooting every week. I think the quality of the videos, if I say so myself, has been really, really good. Well done also to Jackie for his fantastic editing. I think the quality has been really good this season, but the flip side of that is it's really taken out of me, and I'm quite knackered, which means we're not going to be able to reshoot. We're shooting this on the Thursday. It's going to go out on the Sunday, and it will be the last video of the season, and there'll be a couple of months break. But I'll be back. So for now, I want just quickly the recap. When I think back to this season, I always think the video I did with Aaron Bastani at Novara, right at the beginning of this press campaign. And the first question he asked me was, were you surprised by how well the hardback did? So the hardback came out last year, and it was #1 for 2 weeks. And I always ask these guys not to send me the questions before, because I like to sort of be kind of actually answering them in the moment rather than trying to like remember my rehearsed answer. But I said to him, I was disappointed that the book didn't do better, because I thought the book got like mischaracterized as a kind of a finance book. And I thought that it was actually a really good story. And I thought it had the capacity to be much more than like #1 for 2 weeks. And maybe people thought that was quite arrogant at the time, but it's been #1 for 11 weeks. And I'll be honest, I didn't expect it to do that much. And I think that kind of encapsulates how I feel about this whole season, which was, the YouTube grew 6 times sub numbers last year. And I didn't think we could possibly keep growing at that rate. But then we've grown like 2.5 times in the last 3 months. Basically, everything this season was way bigger than I expected. The book sold way better. The growth in the subscriber numbers and the views was like dramatically more than I expected. The increase in like public recognition that I get and like public sort of critique and the increase in like recognition on the streets has all been just like crazy. It has been absolutely crazy for me personally, and that is like amazing. This was always like the plan for the political project, but it's been quite a lot for me personally, and it's been knackering. And yeah, I worry a little bit about how this channel is going to work for me like long term from a mental health perspective, especially if it keeps growing. And I think politically, you know, if we want to win, I need to make the channel keep growing. But I need to find ways to make sure like we find that balance where the channel is growing, but I'm not going insane, basically. That brings me on to my next point, which I've got written down here, which is how can we win? So obviously I'm going away for a couple of months, and I want to talk a little bit about when I go away. It's always, I've taken breaks the last 2 years. This one will be a little bit shorter. There's always two reasons I go away, which is one, to stop me from going insane, and two, because the channel has been growing really quickly for about 2 years now. And every time the channel grows, I need to kind of take a step back, relook at, like, reassess the situation politically and be like, okay, well, what are we going to need to be effective politically in the next couple of years? The channel is much bigger now than it was even 3 or 4 months ago. So what are we going to need now in order to win? So I think the first thing to say is, I think what the last 4 months have proven is that the very basic strategy has a lot of potential, which is, I think there is like a massive demand amongst the public for like a very clear, simple economic political message, which is the reason we are getting poorer is because of this massive growth in inequality. And we're not going to fix that unless we stop that inequality from growing, that inequality of wealth from growing. I think that is powerful for a number of reasons. One, because it's true. I think that is the biggest thing. Two, because it's simple. Three, it doesn't like muddy itself by trying to deal with loads of issues at once. It just aggressively deals with this one issue of worsening living standards and worsening inequality. So I think that horse is running. That can work, that will work. And I would encourage other people to look at that and say, you know, this is a message that can win politically. The second thing is, I think the slogan "tax wealth, not work" has a lot of legs in it. You know I don't really love condensing things into slogans, but the truth is, you know, I think you do need to do that if you want to win. So I think the first thing is, like, I think this is a winning strategy. I think if enough people get behind this, if enough people support this, we can win power on this and we can change policy on this. Just a very clean, simple economic message. The reason living standards are falling is because wealth inequality is growing. The rich are making enormously more money. The middle class and the working class are getting squeezed out. The only way to fix it is to stop growing inequality, to tax wealth, not work. I honestly think that can win. But there are some clear weaknesses that I see. I think the obvious, like the really, really obvious weakness at the moment is that at the moment, this idea and these like slogans is just like way too tied to my personal like brand, if you want to call it that, like my like media identity. And you can see that in the way that like the right-wing press has, especially in the last like month or so, just like really aggressively tried to attack me as a person. Like they're not really engaging with the ideas. It's just like, can we somehow attack Gary Stevenson? Can we take him out? And that is because they can see that at the moment, the economic ideas are really solid, but they are so attached to me as a person that if you can take me out, you can kind of like kill the movement. So I think what that shows us is that we absolutely need, in the long run, more people doing it. We need more diversity of voice. I think in particular, we need what I'm thinking of as academic cover, which is economists, people at think tanks, people with these kind of academic credentials. I have got 2 economics degrees from 2 top universities, but because I am a YouTuber now and because I look and sound working class, it's very, very important that we have this academic cover. So I think we really, really need more support from these think tanks, especially the left-wing think tanks like the New Economics Foundation, like IPPR, like the Resolution Foundation. They really need to be coming in and doing work on this. I would love to see more economists from academia writing papers on this, speaking publicly on this, like looking into things like the squeezing out of wealth of the middle class. Where's the wealth going? You know, what would the dynamics of that be? How does that affect living standards? We need more academic cover, but we don't need just academics. We just need way more diversity of voice in general. So one thing that I've seen, which I've really liked, it's been very meaningful to me personally, is when like different kinds of communicators and artists come in. So there was a clip of me on the Rizzle Kicks album, Jordan Stevens, who I know a little bit. They put me on their album. Somebody sent us a cartoon they've been making based on the educational series, Learning the Economy, which is on this channel. That stuff is really powerful as well. I think I would love to see more communicators. I think when we get loads and loads of messages, like tons of messages of people like, we love what you're doing, how can we help? Can I come and work for you? How can we help? And it's impossible really for me to even read all these messages, never even reply to these messages. So what I want to do is tell you, don't come to me, just do it. Just do it. Just understand the messages and just do it. Just go make the thing. You know, this guy is making the cartoon, making the music, you know, whatever you want to do. You want to print stickers, you want to make merch. I'm not going to sue anybody for making any merch using our name or making any art using our ideas or make any music, like taking clips. Just go make it, do the thing. I want to see more influencers coming through talking about these ideas. I want to see economists talking about these ideas. I want to see artists making art. I want to see musicians making music, you know, stickering campaigns. I would never, ever encourage anyone to do a graffiti campaign or a stickering campaign or a postering campaign. Just do the thing. Do the thing that you want to do. Do the thing, use your skill. And if that means just like making a little community group, talking to your community. And it's the thing which I always encourage, just go and do it. Share the message. But when I say that, I always want to caveat that with the thing I always say, which is this is not a thing we win today or tomorrow or next week or next year. I don't want to tell you like, go out, do it, go out and do it, go out and do it. And then have you run out, exert a ton of energy, exhaust yourself, and then be knackered and depressed that we haven't won. Find a way to use your skills or your community to build this message over the long term in a way that's sustainable for you and your mental health. But what we really need, what I really need, is for this message, these ideas, to not be so associated with just particularly me and my name and this YouTube channel. So, you know, if you're a young person thinking about what to study and you're willing to go study economics, go study economics. If you're an economist nowadays, go and write papers on these ideas, whatever. If you can get in civil service, if you can get into government, if you can create something, if you can make a little group that wants to meet and talk about these things, just basically build it yourself, go and do it. Don't try and like pile everything up on top of my head, because there's only so much I can balance on my head before I go totally insane. And that's another thing. The other big risk I think to this movement is really my mental health, to be honest. I think anyone who's read my book, you know, my book is partially about, you know, me experiencing a burnout, me overworking. I think there's a kind of like irony to the book, which is like the book was supposed to be, in a way, like a criticism of modern culture, which really lionizes like hard work and ambition. There's a quote by, not Shakespeare, by a contemporary of Shakespeare, which is, "Ambition is a great man's madness." And I wanted to try and sell a story of a way of living which was a bit more balanced, that didn't have to be totally obsessed about working hard and achieving. And I locked myself in my room for 9 months to write a book about that was supposed to be a bestseller. And now it is 11 weeks a bestseller. And now I've got this massive YouTube channel and I'm working my absolute tits off, driving myself mad. I need to find ways. If this is going to keep growing and growing and growing and growing, it's going to be difficult for me. And I need to figure out like how I can manage that personally. On that note, I wanted to really thank everyone who's subscribed to the Patreon. Like last year we were funded by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. And this year they didn't renew our funding, which meant we came into this year basically, the only way that we could have funded it was basically me paying for it. We opened the Patreon, and the Patreon guys have, you know, they basically made it that I can have a manager. None of the money ever goes to me. I don't even see the money. There's a separate bank account. Someone else manages it. And it means that I can totally focus on like the creative work, the political work. And I haven't had to focus on the financial work. So, and also it's just been really just meaningful to me to see people like willing to step in and support it with their money, which makes it feel like it's not just me doing it. And that means I can use that money to think about things like getting an assistant, getting a PA. I think we are probably going to need somebody to do like outreach work, where I get tons of messages, so many messages from including like politicians, journalists, celebrities, influencers, people at these think tanks. And it's impossible for me to even keep on top of it. So we might be able to hire somebody to do that. And we're only able to do that because of the guys who support the Patreon. So I wanted to thank you, specifically everyone who's on the Patreon. There are a few little loose ends I want to tie up before I go away. I'd planned to do another video before we stopped it, but like, I'm just basically. I don't know if you've ever played The Sims. And like, when you play The Sims and you try to get your sim to like do some studying, and he's like so knackered that he just is like, no, I refuse it. This is what my own brain is doing to me at this point. Like, I'm properly exhausted. But I wanted to do a couple of videos covering just a couple of the common critiques that we've had in the last like couple of months. And I'm not going to be able to do that video. So I'm just going to include them very quickly in this one. One of the big criticisms we've had is that raising tax on wealth is pulling up the ladder. You're preventing people from being able to get rich. Now you are rich yourself. And this is just like totally insane, basically. The whole thing I'm trying to do is lower taxes on working people and raise taxes on hoarded wealth, so that very, very wealthy people have to sell assets, and those assets go back into the economy, and ordinary working people get higher wages and pay lower taxes and can afford to buy assets. Like, the whole thing I'm doing here is trying to make it so that ordinary working people, young working people who want to produce good things, who want to do good work, can get rich and buy assets. The other attack which I get is that just like, I want to increase taxes and increase the state, which is mad, because I've always made it totally clear that I'm not trying to increase taxes. I'm trying to change who pays taxes. I want to move the tax burden away from working people and towards the super rich. And I think when you see how like these attacks are constantly attacks on things that I've never said, I think it kind of makes it clear what is really happening here, which is you basically have a lot of rich people who are just trying to find any way to argue against the idea that they should pay more tax. It's a lot of rich people who control a lot of media, fund a lot of media. They don't want to pay tax. The last thing was this constant attack that I get, which is, well, taxing the rich is hard, and if you want to tax the rich so much, can you please show me your like completely designed tax plan? I think it should be clear at this point that I am by far the biggest and most recognised public campaigner for the need to stop growing inequality, and that there's quite a lot of pressure and work on just me to push this campaign. I think we've had massive amount of success, but even just driving the sort of public education campaign is really knackering for me, and it's been a ton of work. It should be obvious that I am not going to be able to do that and simultaneously by myself design a complete tax plan for the country. And this is what I mean when I say we need more people. We need more people. You know, I'm going to call out like the think tanks, the left-wing think tanks. Like, where are you? We need you. We need you guys to make these tax plans. I can't be the guy that wins the public support for this and gets attacked by the Daily Mail every day and writes the whole plan by myself. Like, we need to have more people behind this, more people behind this. So if there's any economists watching this, people in government, people in civil service, people in the think tanks, help us draw up these detailed tax proposals, because I'm knackered and I can't do it by myself. We need help. We need help. The last thing I've got here is the personal attacks on me. I don't really like doing these lists, but I'm so knackered. This is kind of all I've got left, really. Loads and loads of personal attacks on me, which, to be honest, often are the funniest part of my day. The one thing I want to say about this is, I'm in a very fortunate situation here. I don't need to win this. I'm a rich guy. If we lose, I'll continue to be a rich guy. I'll get richer and richer. I don't need to win. So the Daily Mail can attack me all they want. When the Daily Mail attack me, what they're trying to do is make sure that you pay higher taxes and your family falls into poverty and their billionaire owners don't have to pay tax. So really, in a way, if the public can be convinced that I'm a dickhead, well, I can finally go on holiday. But it's your family's finances on the line. Couple other things which I've got to tie up. We never answered whether we're going to have Labour on the channel. Thank you to everybody who replied about having Labour on the channel. I have decided, first of all, I've been so knackered, I haven't really been able to seriously consider it, but I think what I'm going to do is go back to them and ask them if they would be willing to speak to me, not on the channel, about the economy and about their policy. Because I think it has to be clear, I think our best chance, in this country at least, of making change is to influence the Labour Party. I think they will be, because the economy will continue to worsen, I think they will be like really phenomenally unpopular, and they will continue to become more unpopular as we approach the next election. They'll be forced to do some change, and I want us to be able to influence that change, basically. So I want to be able to influence them. I don't think having them on this channel helps, because, if I get them to send, Torsten Bell on someone on this channel to defend not taxing the rich, and I have a massive argument with, somebody who could be the next Labour leader for all I know, I don't think that helps us. We'd probably get views on it, especially, we'd probably get some subscribers, but I don't think it helps our political power, just like having a massive public fight with the exact people that we need to influence. So I'm going to try to see if they're interested in talking to me about policy, and if they're not, then I'm probably not interested in having them on the channel. Second thing, very little one, is as the channel's grown a lot, there's been a massive growth in scammers trying to convince people to join like online WhatsApp groups and stuff, trying to sell like crypto and trading scams. I would never do that. If anybody approaches you, it's a scam. When this first came up, we would try to get these guys taken down, but like all it means is I spend 20 minutes getting a channel taken down, and they just open 10 more channels. So there's really nothing I can do. You can complain to Instagram if you want, but just don't give any scammers your money. We don't sell any trading tips, and we never will. Okay, that's it basically. Yeah, lastly, thank you for just the unbelievable growth. It's hard for me personally sometimes, as I've been someone who has been betting on a weakening economy for 14 years now, and I'm very, very confident that I'm right on this. I've made a lot of money on it. I think it's going to keep happening, and the truth is, in my heart of hearts, I've never really believed that we could do anything to stop it. There's a little scene towards the end of my book where, when I used to be a trader, I was speaking to my junior, an Australian guy in the book, he's called Arthur Gopowski, where I said to him, like, do you think we should try and do something about the collapsing economy? And he just didn't understand, and he just sort of laughed, and he was like, there's nothing you can do. There's no way you can stop it. And the truth is, like, when I quit banking, I think in my heart of hearts, I believed that he was probably right. That it was kind of a fool's errand that I was doing, walking away from a lot of money to try to stop a bad thing from happening, which in reality, I would probably never be powerful enough to stop or even influence stopping. And I probably really did believe that until up to about a year ago. But I don't believe that anymore. I think we can maybe do this. So let's keep building. Let's keep building. There was another video that I wanted to do, which I'm too knackered to do, which I'm going to just tie into the ending of this. I wanted to do a video. This is so random. I wanted to do a video talking about the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire. And the reason I wanted to do that video is because a lot of people don't know this, but the Aztec Empire, which was in what is now Mexico, was a massive empire with, they think, something like 12, 13, 14 million people. And the group of Spanish people who eventually conquered the entire Aztec Empire was less than 3,000 people. And how was it that 3,000 people were able to conquer and destroy and take all of the wealth and the land of an empire which was, more than 10 million people? What they did was they landed, they worked out the kind of political groupings, and they allied with the larger group, and they used that group to destroy the smaller group. And then they split the larger group into smaller groups, and they did the same thing again. They used the larger group to split into smaller groups. And through that repeated plan, 3,000 people were able to totally dominate and take all of the wealth and all of the land of an empire of 13, 14, 15 million people, and more than 10 million Aztecs died at the hands of just 3,000 people. This is what can happen if ordinary people in society allow themselves to be driven against each other and to hate one another. That can allow a tiny, tiny, tiny group of people to take all of your wealth, to take all of your assets, and to totally destroy your civilization and your quality of life and everything that you care about. This is the direction that we can go in if ordinary people are unwilling or unable to, look to the people that live either side of them and stand with them to protect themselves from the rich and the powerful. And for a long time, I thought that in our increasingly individualistic society, because ordinary people were not sort of willing or not able to look past their very narrow selfish interests and stand next to each other, that they would lose. But the last few months, when I've seen so many people across the country willing to take time out of their day, take effort to try and support a movement that they don't gain anything from personally, because they know it's what the society needs to protect each other, have made me believe that maybe we can win this. Maybe we can stop wealth from flooding away from ordinary families towards the rich. Maybe we can get that back, and maybe we can win. But it's not going to be just me who wins it. And it's not going to depend really on me or what I do. It's going to depend on you and how many of you are willing and able to spread that message. And I'm going away for a couple of months. I'm going to be in Japan, Italy, Portugal, Sweden, and mainly promote my book. But when I come back, I want to see more people making cool things. If they're going to grind down the ordinary people of this country, I want to at least see you make some cool stuff on the way down. That's what's going to help us win. You guys, ordinary people, getting behind the simple idea that if you don't stop growing wealth inequality, it will destroy living standards for ordinary families, for your kids and your grandkids. I've said it before, I'll say it again. We're not going to win this today. We're not going to win this tomorrow. So be calm, be patient, be there for each other. God knows you're going to need each other. But keep building. If you keep building, we can win this. Good luck.